Hey, it's Coffee with the Goose, where we talk about things that are interesting, fascinating, and irritating. And believe me, this one was irritating because I was rooting for Jonas Sultan, and it was only one guy showed up. Anyhow, we'll start. That's unfortunate. We'll start the way we always do, with a little coffee. My coffee, as you know, very strong, like my opinion, and got some creamer in there to make it sweet, just like me. And even though what I just watched was very bitter. All right, the WBO Bantamweight Interim Bantamweight Championship of the World. Paul Butler against Jonas Sultan, British fighter fighting at home against the Filipino. It was, wow, it was easy. It was too easy. Let's give you a little background on the fight. You know, to both of their credits, both of these guys took the fight on just a couple days' notice, or at least knew who their opponent was going to be just a couple days before the fight. That's because John Real Casimero, the original opponent of Paul Butler, again, a Filipino fighter, was not allowed to get in the ring because of some, at least in the opinion of the British boxing authorities, some medical misdeeds. He made the mistake in their eyes of spending a little too much time in the sauna too close to the fight in an effort to lose weight and make the bantamweight weight limit. And so the next guy in line, I believe he was the third-ranked challenger in the WBO. That was Jonas Sultan, and a good fighter. I mean, take nothing away from him. He went into the fight with a record of 18-5 with 18-5 with 11 KOs, and you know, he had beaten John Real Casimero. So I mean, he's a great fighter, but it was anything but a competitive fight. Yeah, I've said in the past, and I know you guys who follow boxing agree with me. Most of the time, there's always exceptions, but most of the time you can tell by the third or fourth round who's going to win, who's got command, who's better prepared, who has the better stuff. And in this case, there was no doubt about it. Paul Butler came in and acted like an old pro schooling a young student. That's what it looked like. And no disrespect intended toward Jonas Sultan. He came in just a couple days before the fight is when he knew he was going to have to face Butler, so he really didn't have time to put together a good game plan. But you know what? Neither did Paul Butler. So that's not an excuse. I knew early on that this is going to be difficult because Butler used a lot of different tactics in taking control of this fight. The first thing he did was run and run and run and run. And he wore Jonas Sultan out mentally and eventually physically. Sultan realized he couldn't hit this guy. Well, it's hard to hit anybody who's constantly running in circles around you. And then towards the end of the round, or at least the second half of each round, Butler would stop and go toe-to-toe with you and exchange, and he got the better of him every which way the entire fight. I'm going to be honest with you. You may not like what I'm going to say, but, you know, keep in mind, I was rooting for Jonas Sultan, okay? I predicted he was going to win. So it's not like I'm rubbing salt in the wounds or taunting or anything like that. I'm giving you my honest opinion. What I saw was a near shutout. I honestly, maybe Jonas Sultan got one or two rounds, but if he did, they were gifts, because Paul Butler, again, he wore him out, and even in those toe-to-toe exchanges, he got the better of it almost every time. I was watching the fight with my son, and I said, look at this. For the most part, Sultan would throw one punch, and Butler would respond with three. You know, he outworked him, didn't just throw more punches, but he landed many, many more clear punches, you know, and again, don't get upset with me. If you watch the fight, you know this is what happened. And Sultan was worn out, and eventually, you know, this is what you see as a fight progresses and one guy's getting the better of the other. You see the victor getting more comfortable, looking fresh. At one point, I'll give you an example here. Towards the middle of the fight, maybe the 7th or 8th round, Sultan blasted him right in the chops. And you know what Butler did? He looked at him and went, "No, you're not hurting me." And not only was he beating him to the punch and outboxing him, he was beating him mentally. It was, by the second half of the fight, Jonas Sultan knew he wasn't going to win. He was frustrated. He was worn out. He knew he couldn't get this guy and even when he did, like I said, even when he did get him to stand right in front of him, he couldn't do anything with it because Butler just outperformed him and made it look easy. Paul Butler, I said before the fight, as I was doing my little preview, that Paul Butler's resume was weak, and it is going up to this fight. Most of his opponents, a lot of them didn't even have winning records, and almost all of the opponents that did have winning records that Butler beat before today was they'd have like 10 or 15 wins in their on their resume. So Butler didn't have a great resume himself going into this fight. Well, now he does. Butler performed like somebody who was in better shape, better prepared, more confident, had better command of his game, and it was a great win for him and his fans. Congratulations, Paul Butler. He wins the interim WBO Bantamweight Championship of the World. We're still not sure what the end result will be with the WBO because, of course, John Real Casimero is still trying to convince them that he should keep his belt. We're not sure what's going to happen. We'll keep you up to date. And, of course, the other two title holders in the Bantamweight division are going to do battle on June 7th in Japan, and that's Inoue and Nonito Donaire. Second round of their war that they fought a few years ago, which was won, of course, by Inoue. Two great fighters there, so that's going to be a magnificent matchup. I'm really looking forward to that. It will be everything that this fight was not. This was not competitive at all, at any point in the fight whatsoever. It was a whitewash. It was, and again, I'm not here to rip Jonas Sultan. He's a good fighter, a winning fighter. He's had good days in the ring, but today wasn't one of them. It was a dominating performance by Paul Butler, and he walks away with the interim WBO Championship of the World. Let me know what you folks have to think. If you watch the fight, there's no denying what I said. You saw the same painful thing I did. It was very frustrating. Even if your guy's winning, and it's so lopsided, it's tough to watch. It's like, gee, you want to see the opponent at least, put on a good show and test your guy. But unfortunately, Jonas Sultan did not do that. So he's had better days behind him. He's fought some great fighters, and he will have more success in the future, no doubt about it. He's a very committed fighter. I believe he's fighting with the PBC, the Pacquiao team. At least I know he's been training in the Wild Card gym with Freddie Roach. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with his future. And with Paul Butler, I'm really impressed. He's now 34-2 on his career with 15 KOs, and he was dominating. Absolutely put on a performance, a lesson, a tutorial in the ring. Paul Butler, many congrats to him and his team. They fought a good fight and prepared for it just like a real professional would. So there you have it. That's the end result. Dominating performance, easy win for Paul Butler over Jonas Sultan of the Philippines today for the interim WBO Championship of the World. Many more good fights to come. Of course, we got Mark Magsayo set to take on, Ray I see I'm not prepared with that one. But he's got a great fight. Ray Vargas, that's who it is. He's got a great fight ahead of him, I believe, in July. And then in June, of course, it's going to be Donaire and Inoue. So we'll keep you up to date on all those fights. But there you have it. A waste of time for me. I'll be honest. I didn't like it. But again, congrats to Paul Butler and his team. That's it for this edition of Coffee with the Goose. Thanks for watching. Many, many thanks to all you folks who subscribed. We have lots more shows to come, so stick with me. You guys take care.